I noticed the Slack community is growing quite rapidly, and I wanna kind of go back a little bit and understand where your beginnings were. What made you jump into this? And I don't want to say it's a saturated market, but there's definitely a lot of players in this, like, building landing pages for Shopify, and there's other companies doing very similar. I'd love to know what's your background. I know you said you studied software engineer, but what's kind of the path to getting to building on Shopify directly rather than elsewhere, and that part of the story.
Yeah, totally. So I guess even to go way further back, so yeah, like Noah and I were in the same dorm together. We've been friends for a long time. Like I copied his homework or I guess we're like work group partners or whatever in college, right? So it's like I've known the guy for a long time, and even back in college we worked together. We actually digitized Berkeley's course scheduling system like while we were still in school, and that was a lot of fun. That helped pay for our tuition. We ended up selling that to the university. So I had like a long history of working with him, and like
Wow.
we were kind of like always like friends first, and we were kind of like okay, next thing that we do together, like we want to do together, right? So after college, Noah was the principal engineer at this company called PlanGrid. They got acquired by Autodesk a couple of years back, and like I think he was ready to leave because it was a big transition for him from going to such a small engineering team and small company startup environment to like a company as big as Autodesk, which had like 50 gazillion employees, right?
Yeah.
And then I was at Uber for about 6 years, was a senior engineering manager there, and like was managing a couple of engineering teams. And I had always been kind of this like, I think kind of like closet designer in some ways. I was kind of like, okay, like design is really cool. Even though I was kind of in the software engineering space, I think like building great products is like something that I feel really good about.
Hmm.
Um, I think like kind of how this whole thing started was like a friend and I used to run like a e-commerce drop shipping business on Shopify, and like I for us like design was like really important. Like even though we were like a relatively small player in the space, like we were kind of just like okay, like we wanted everything to look good. Like we didn't like I think Squarespace and these kind of like website builders were great if we just needed like something really simple, but we were like okay, we want it to look a certain way, and how do we get there? And it was kind of
Right.
this combination of like being really focused on design, but also kind of like being too lazy to kind of like code everything from scratch. And we were kind of like okay, this is kind of an interesting kind of problem, which is that like if you're someone's mom like selling necklaces online or whatever,
Hmm.
like like a simple storefront would do. And there's a lot of like great software out there that helps you do this. But like if you were like someone who kind of really cared about design and brand and like all of this stuff, it's like you kind of just like had to straight up go out and like hire developers. And we were
Right.
like we actually had this problem at Uber as well. It's like we had I think over a $1 billion marketing spend in like 2018 2019, and like we wanted all of our content, our global content to be like branded and like have so much like design elements, and like
Hmm.
when people come to Uber they're like hey, like this needs to be trustworthy. And there was like never enough engineers to like actually like build out everything like across like 1,000 different cities, like all the different marketing pages we needed to do, all the different campaigns. Like there was just never enough engineers to like actually do this stuff. And I was like okay, like I think like there's an interesting opportunity of like how do we kind of like allow people to create like really amazing content online, like web pages or whatever,
Hmm.
and actually have them be like really custom. And maybe that market is not as big as like everyone building their like next wedding website online, but like for us that was like a really interesting problem. And I think that naturally kind of extended to like okay, like we see this problem on Shopify because like we actually had this problem, and like on Shopify, like you have not only like branding is not only important, it's like actually necessary, right? It's like when people
Right.
come on your page, it needs to be trustworthy. It needs to like, and it not only needs to be like, well designed, it also needs to be dynamic. Like there's like custom content on these pages, there's like
Hmm.
discounts, there's like different product information getting pulled from different places. People have like different subscription programs. So it's not like, hey, like we can just have a static page and put some buttons together and it's like good enough. It's like a lot of the companies we work with now, like they really care about this stuff. And
Yeah.
so we saw like a niche there, and we were like, hey, like this is an interesting idea. Like, I got Noah on board, and he was like, all right, let's do this. So we've been at it for about a year and a half, and then so far it's been going decently well. So um,
That's amazing, man. That's amazing.